Hey guys, welcome back to the Struggleville YouTube channel. For this video, we're going to do the top 10 tools you should never leave home without. We're building a car emergency kit, and we're using responses that you guys provided in the last Struggleville loot box giveaway. So in the last giveaway, one of the ways you could earn an entry was to answer the question of what is a tool that should be in every vehicle on the road. So we had over 600 people answer that question. I tallied up all the answers and created a top 10 list from your guys' responses. Now, in the past, when we've done top 10 lists, people got a little confused. So let me explain. Number 10 is the 10th most popular response. Number 1 is the most popular response. So 1 received more answers, more votes than number 10. Now 10 still got a lot, but not as much as number 1. We're going to start at number 10. We're going to finish with number 1. This is how top 10 lists work. Okay. So I do have a link down below to this page if you want to check it out for yourself. Starting with number 10, we have a fire extinguisher. Now this is a fantastic idea, and I can tell you that I have caught my car on fire a couple of times. One time maybe not so much a fire, but it had a ton of smoke, because you would be amazed how much smoke comes off a single wire burning. I had a wire, touched something it wasn't supposed to touch, and bam, wire gone. And it smoked so much. You would have thought the whole car was about to be burnt down to a shell, but no, it's just a single wire. Pretty amazing and scary. The other thing was, I had one of those honeycomb foam air cleaners on my car at one point, which awful idea, horrible, never do that. Because the hood is cowl induction, and a traditional chrome style air cleaner butted right up against the underside of the hood, and I thought I paid for this cowl induction hood and I can't even get any air through it. So my thought was, hey, I'm going to use one of these honeycomb ones. It sucks from the top. It'll be sitting right up in there in the hood, and we'll get some good flow from it, right? Well, first time the car backfired, the stupid foam filter caught on fire, and man, did it burn stuff. It burnt the distributor cap and some spark plug wires, and the cowl induction hood was definitely working because flames came up through the cowl induction and burnt the paint on the cowl itself and left all kinds of soot on the windshield. And yeah, a fire extinguisher, if I could have got to it in time, definitely would have been a little beneficial in that fire. So thank you, Holly, for making a garbage product that... Why would that foam thing catch on fire? At some point, a carbureted engine may backfire. Why? Why? Horrible, horrid product, just bad. Don't buy one of those. Number 9 is a tire inflator. Now I have one of these in each of my cars. Saved my butt one time. I had a 2012 GMC Terrain, and going down the road, and the little light comes on that the tire's low. And it's dropping fast because it has the little number, and it's like 32, 31, 30, 29. And then it skips like 3 and it goes down to 24. And then 20. I'm like, holy crap, we're losing air fast. Pull over, hook up one of these suckers, fill it back up. Now, that wasn't the end of it for me because we had larger problems. I actually had the tread pulling away from the sidewall. Now, I like to run my tires until they're glass smooth because I want to get every dime I can out of them. And this one had met its end. That was all it had. This thing filled it up. It did get it to 30-something PSI, but as soon as I disconnect it and turn it off, you hear shh, not a good sound. So, jump in the car, let's go. Driving, watching the pressure drop down, and finally get into a parking lot where I can put the spare on. But I wasn't stranded on the side of the road, was able to get myself to a parking lot, so this thing paid for itself in just that one use. And of course, especially if you live in a cold climate, hot and cold weather is going to make the pressure go down a little, and it's much easier. It's not easier than just having to turn on your air compressor and all that. Or you go to a gas station. How many of them want you to pay like $1 or a quarter or something, or the machine's broken? And do yourself a favor, have one in the trunk. Number 8 is a seatbelt cutter window breaker tool. Now, this is one that I don't have, and I don't know why. They're not expensive and could be incredibly useful, not only in an emergency situation, but if there's a roadblock for a certain political activity and you need to defend yourself. The little spike on the end of this hammer looking thing, it can do more than just break a window. It can crack skulls too, and you might need to. So I definitely need to pick these up at some point. But look, imagine yourself getting in an accident, car flips over, you have the gas just dripping out of the tank, just drip, 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 and you got that smell of gas all up in your nostrils. You know it's just making a big old puddle behind you, and it only takes one spark, just one spark, and kablooey! You're gone. You're history. Actually, no one will probably remember you, so you're not really history in the sense of noteworthy history, but just, you don't exist anymore. So, you don't want that to happen. Need this thing, you can cut the seatbelt, and you're out of there. You're watching the show from afar. You're not a participant any longer. You cut the seatbelt, you smash the window, you get out. Get out of Dodge while you can. And it's only $11 for 2. That's some peace of mind right there on the cheap. Number 7, a spare tire. Now this really seemed obvious at first. When I was surprised, one, how many people said a spare tire. And then as I'm thinking to myself, I have 4 vehicles. One has a spare tire. One of the 4. So not only should you make sure you have the spare tire, make sure it's inflated. If you got that 12-volt inflator from above, inflate your spare tire. Also, if it's been around for a while, check it for cracks. Make sure it actually is holding that air and it doesn't look all shot out. Because a flat spare tire, boy, that's almost like insult to injury. Especially think you get it all done, you got everything, you got the jack out, you jacked up the car, you took off the flat, you're going to put the spare on, and it's flat and it won't hold air. It's like, I just did all that for nothing. I'm still calling a tow truck. $100 to hook you up, and how much a mile? No, thank you. Number 6 is a Roadside Emergency Kit, which definitely has some overlap with other items that we are included in the list. But I did think this is a good jumping off point. Get some basics right out of the way. Then as you get the kit, you can see what you need to add to it. Maybe things that you need to upgrade. Because I would not expect these kits to have top-notch supplies in them. But it's a good place to start. And there's a million options on Amazon. Plus or minus. Number 5 is a mechanic set, which I agree wholeheartedly with. I have a little mechanic set in every single one of my cars because you never know what might go wrong, especially for myself. My entire driving life has been driving older vehicles. I learned how to drive on my 66 Caprice. And I am not that old. It was not a brand new car when I was learning how to drive it. I got my license in 2002. So even then it was several decades old. And it was my daily driver for several years, except for in the winter. We don't drive those cars in the snow. But it got driven every single day. And it has left me stranded many times. I've had broken brake lines, which was amazing because it doesn't have an emergency brake. And it's only got the single reservoir master cylinder, so luckily we just coasted to a stop and were able to change that brake line. I've had the return spring break on me twice, both times coming off a stop sign, and we're a little aggressive doing that, so I reach down and grab the gas pedal with my hand and pull it back up. The first time, you're a little freaked out about it, right? The second time, it's like, hey, this has happened before. I know exactly what to do. We're good. We got it. So we broke that return spring a couple of times. I threw the alternator belt again, taken off, and I don't know what happened, but the alternator belt, then it got wrapped up with everything, and it just making noises, and had to go into a parking lot and untangle things and get it back on. I broke the air shocks, which the mechanic set's not going to do you a whole lot of good for that scenario, but going over some railroad tracks, I had them pumped up to like 100 psi, and powie! No more air shocks there. The bolt connector at the firewall used to fall off all the time because the tabs that are supposed to hold it on were broken because it's old brittle plastic, and the whole car would die when that happens. And again, the first time it happens, you're kind of wondering and worrying about what the hell just happened. You're going down the road and the car died, but then afterwards you realize, that damn bolt connector came off. So you pop the hood. Sometimes you're just sitting at a light. You pop the hood, you put the bolt connector back on, and bam, we're back on the road again. So, things happen with old cars and even newer cars. Having a mechanic set is amazing. And I picked this one out. It's a little more expensive than I wanted, but it was really hard to find sets that came with both sockets and sockets, screwdrivers, and pliers, and the whole thing. You can get like socket sets and then don't have any of this or don't have any of that, but you really need a little bit of all of it. And I wanted the bag style instead of the plastic case style because my thinking is it's easier to add additional tools or to upgrade the tools within the kit when it's a bag. When it's one of those molded plastic cases, that's nice and it keeps everything orderly, but you can't really add your own stuff to it. It would have to be a separate entity to do that, So that's why we went with this one. And the other thing, if you do go something else, don't get a huge box that takes up way too much space, because then you're going to end up taking it out of the car, and if it's not in the car, it's not doing you any good. Number 4 is a floor jack. Now, some of the responses said something to the lines of a better jack or a hydraulic jack, and now, I've never thought about this before, but you also have to keep in mind 75% of the cars I own don't even have a spare tire, so having the jack wouldn't do a whole lot of good in most instances, but it's not a bad idea because, for instance, when I had to change the tire on that Terrain, those scissor crap jacks, they're, one, not safe, tip over very easily, they're not user-friendly at all, they get the car in the air in an emergency, but boy, faster, safer, nicer having a hydraulic jack in the car for these types of situations. Now, with this one, I went with this 3,000 pound capacity jack that came with the case. I really like the idea of keeping it in the case because, again, it keeps things kind of orderly. You won't lose the handle or whatever. How mad would you be if you had to break it out and then you couldn't find the handle? Like, oh, damn, because you are not going to push that thing up with just your hand. Comes in the case, again, but pay attention to how heavy your vehicle is. If you have a much heavier vehicle, then obviously you would not buy one that would not. Also, by the way, the height, make sure it lifts high enough to get your wheels off the ground of your vehicle. If you got a big truck, then, it might not work for you, or, keep a couple of 2x4s handy. Now, number 3 is a first aid kit. Very glad this made the list. Very important. The first rule of roadside emergencies is to stop the bleeding. It'll distract you. It gets all over. It's slippery. It gets on your tools. And there's always that annoying person who goes, "Did you know you're bleeding?" Yeah, I kinda did. I know. Real men don't use Band-Aids. Although when they do, they're Ninja Turtle Band-Aids. Let me tell you. But it's not for your present self. This is for the benefit of your future self. So the next time you get pulled over, the cop comes up, and you don't have to explain why there's blood stains all over the seats. You will thank your past self for that Ninja Turtle Band-Aid. Boy, is that an awkward moment. And number 2 is a flashlight. And we do not mean the flash on your phone. That is trash. That will let you down. You can't see shit with that. That is not what we're talking about. You need a quality flashlight. Now, my favorite flashlight brand is Olight. I have a ton of Olights. Yes, they've given some to me for free, but I've actually paid full price for some also. That's how much I like them. I chose for this the Baton 3. Now, the Baton 3 comes either as just the flashlight itself, or you can get it in a rechargeable case. But what I like is it's very bright, it's got a magnetic tail cap, and it's compact. So it's not going to take up much space. It'll fit into tight areas depending on what you need to use it for. And it is more than bright enough for any automotive situation if you need to see what's going on, or maybe you just need to do like a bat signal to somebody. I don't know, it's bright enough for that too. Big fan of the Olights. Should definitely keep it in your glove box, keep it in the center console, somewhere where it is nice and handy, and it'll get you out of a bind. And number one, winner, chicken dinner, is the portable jump starter. I am so proud that this made it to number one. I kind of poisoned the well because probably at least 35 times in the Tool Deal videos, I've mentioned that I believe this should be in every single car on the road because they are incredibly useful. So you guys, you're listening. You're good listeners. I really appreciate it. So I chose this Tack Life one because I own this exact one that I'm linking to in the page, and I've used it more than any of the others I have. And look, my cars sit all winter long, and sometimes I remember to put a battery maintainer on them, and other times I do not. So I regularly have dead batteries, the lawnmower and the cars, all sorts of things. I even used this on a winch one time because it was easier than trying to get a battery to it. Never had any problem with this Tack Life. Has always jump started everything. But in addition to being able to jump start your vehicle, it can also function as a charger. So in an emergency situation, obviously you don't want a dead cell phone or maybe your tablet or whatever you have. You need juice. You need juice. And this gives you the juice. Juicy juice. Juicy fruit. So one of these portable jump starters should absolutely be in every single vehicle that ever hits the road. Much better than jumper cables. Think of jumper cables. Jumper cables, you got to have a second car or at least a second battery. And how many people have a second battery in their trunk? Not nearly as useful as a quality jump starter. Now, I do want to touch on some honorable mentions that did not make the list, and one thing that I was surprised no one answered, and I know it doesn't really fit the tool theme, but since these other things did, were mentioned, I got one of my own to tack on at the end. Honorable mentions, duct tape. Absolutely have duct tape. You can fix so much stuff with duct tape, even if it's just a temporary, get me home, get me to the gas station, get me somewhere where I'm not stranded in the middle of the road. Duct tape is amazing. Water. Absolutely water. I'm actually surprised water didn't make the top 10, but again, maybe a little outside the box of what people were thinking. Not only for drinking, but if you have any kind of radiator issue, water pump, something like that, if you had a jug of water, that could help you out. I remember one time Monica getting stranded on the side of the road, and I filled up an entire cooler of water and had a pitcher or something and went out there, and we just had to get it off the interstate, get, somewhere. So she had it pulled over, filled it up, it steamed like crazy, just like a fog rolling over the road where nobody can see anything coming out, like, oh, this is going to cause an accident. It's like Days of Thunder, when he drives in, they say, just hit the gas, don't hit the brakes. Just like that, that's what it looked like. And it was a little plastic elbow that broke within the cooling system. Anyway, we had to stop every couple of miles, and I'm glad I had a whole cooler full of water because we went through it, and it was just whoosh, every time, like smoke show. Okay, steam. Emergency blanket, one of those little Mylar blankets. You guys have seen those. Well, okay, the news doesn't want to talk about these things, but if you watch the right news, then you have seen these emergency blankets, because we're giving them out by the thousands to people who illegally walk across imaginary lines that should have some type of barrier, not a wall, because a wall would be the R word, which we can't say, but they're not supposed to cross the line, but they do cross the line. And then when they do cross the line, it's actually against the law, but they get better treatment than the people who are supposed to already be across the line and didn't break any. It's very odd. It's very 2021 of things, okay? But emergency blanket, incredibly useful. A can of Fix-A-Flat. Amazing thought. You don't need the jack. You don't need the spare tire. It may rust out your rim, but shoot that in there. You're off and running. Just keep going. A dash cam. Very good idea. The reason I bought my first dash cam is I saw an accident right in front of me on the interstate, and it would have been cool to capture. I think I've talked about it in the past, but I'm on the interstate, and there's an on-ramp, and I'm directly behind a semi. And out of the corner of my eye, I see this guy. We're coming up to the on-ramp, and I see this guy coming onto the interstate, and he's in like, I think it was like a 90s Buick or something, okay? Like a bigger sedan. And I don't know why, it was perfectly fine weather, a nice sunny day, no snow, no rain, nothing, sunny day, and the back end of their car, or maybe the whole car, went onto the shoulder of the on-ramp in the gravel, right? And then they went to correct, and the whole car swung. So eventually what they ended up doing was doing a full 360. Now the car is facing away from the interstate, but they're moving backwards, and they're coming right into the lanes of traffic. And it was 2 lanes, and I see this coming up. You know, I'm like, oh man, I see what's about to happen here. So I'm slowing down, like, whoa, back up, back up, back up. I don't know if the semi saw or not, because those guys probably slowed down a lot slower than what I slowed down. Anyways, they backed right into that semi, and he T-boned them, and that back windshield, that was like an explosion, just boom! it was like one of those party poppers. You pull the string and oh man, he crushed them. And they flew in the opposite lane just as fast as they were going in reverse. Now they're going forward again, but at like a 45-degree angle right into the ditch. And then he went to the left. And although I'd already started slowing down, there was no stopping in time for this. So I just went right through the middle. It's, again, just like Days of Thunder, man. What a good movie. I went right through it and running over plastic and all sorts of stuff. And look, man, we got to get out of Dodge. What's going on here? People are getting crazy. Just I have no idea if they were okay, but boy, did they get hit hard. I'm sure someone called the cops for them. Lastly, I liked that this was a good suggestion. Quote, a hot chick. Now, I'm not sure how useful said hot chick would be in an emergency situation, but I agree. I agree. Who would disagree with that? Brian Stelter. He would definitely disagree with that. Alright guys, that is it for the top 10 list. We created our little emergency kit. There will be a link down below if you're interested in any of the items. Thanks for hanging out with me for 24 minutes. Give the video a like, subscribe for subscribe. I'll see you guys next time.